thing that I think most people have come to realize now is that there's more to this than simply the fraudulent science behind a pandemic. There has been an idea that was circulated, I think, January of 2020 originally from the World Economic Forum itself around the idea of a great reset. So I want to give a little bit of meat onto the bones of that. Klaus Schwab himself had said in his own words that the world must act jointly and swiftly to revamp all aspects of our society and economies, from cultural to social contracts and working conditions. Every country from the United States to China must participate, and every industry from oil and gas to tech must be transformed. In short, we need a great reset of capitalism. So this is something which is a creepy idea, but it's something which has been permeating many of the circles around the World Economic Forum, the Davos crowd, is that the current crisis isn't really a crisis so much of it being an opportunity to fast track the shutting down, the reset and creation of a new system, which is not just economic, and it's not just about coronavirus, but it blends in every aspect of human society, cultural, as he says, education, political, strategic, and even the COP26 summit that's coming up in the UK, overseen by World Economic Forum trustee Mark Carney, makes it very well known that it's not really just about the climate crisis, but rather the climate crisis as well as COVID-19, which together are being merged into one strange problem that we're all supposed to be afraid of and modify our behavior globally around. So there was the need to destroy something in the mind of British imperialists that was organizing itself around protectionism, around large-scale rail projects, development of long-term credit, using the Abraham Lincoln economic paradigm. At the time in Germany, it took the form of Frederick List and the Frederick List movement of industrialization, getting rid of British free trade by going for protectionism and working together bilaterally and trilaterally with other countries for win-win cooperation. The Berlin to Baghdad railway that Bismarck had put into motion was a part of this to modernize the Ottoman Empire. What you have on the left-hand side is an image from the London Conference. It was a central bankers' Great Reset type conference in 1933 that not many people know about, which was brought together by the League of Nations, the Bank of England, and the Bank of International Settlements, the latter being the central bank of central banks created in 1930 specifically to facilitate debt repayments by Germany to the West. Now, this bank also became Hitler's bank, which facilitated the takeover of Czech gold to the Nazi coffers. It continued to be a tool used to drive the Nazi machine throughout World War II. And what was the solution being offered by the part of those who created the Depression was fascism. So in the United States, the fascist parties were being celebrated by Time magazine. Henry Luce, who ran Time and Fortune, were big fascists who had Mussolini on Time magazine's covers 8 times, even after World War II began. Hitler, man of the year. And this was being, again, sold that you can put bread on your tables if you just accept this new, great, innovative economic system called fascism. William Randolph Hearst, Henry Luce, they ran much of the media as well. So it was a big fight over who would control the education of the people.
Actually, a whole procession of psychiatrists, professors of psychiatry and psychology have confirmed this to us. Isn't it incredible that we're dealing, obviously, with psychopaths?
We are. And it's difficult for a lot of people to see it because they're masquerading under a veneer of morality and empathy, right? So this is, again, it's not a new thing. This was in the Senate of the United States being demonstrated by people who were in the know of what was really controlling their collapse into a depression. Fortunately, Franklin Roosevelt pulled the United States out of all cooperation with this conference and said, basically, he called it the mathematical fetishes of international bankers are trying to take precedence over sovereign nation states. I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what he said in a speech. And he basically said, we're not going to participate. We need to first do a real national economic recovery. It doesn't mean that he didn't believe we needed a new economic system. He did believe that, but he believed that nation states needed to heal so that sovereign nation states could be the force driving that recovery and not private central bankers. In his inaugural speech, he made the point that the money changers have fled from their high seats in the temple of our civilization. We may now restore that temple to the ancient truths. The measure of the restoration lies in the extent to which we apply social values more noble than mere monetary profit. So JFK fired Allen Dulles. He went to war with the Joint Chiefs and tried on several occasions valiantly to bring back the New Deal spirit by building big continental water projects, by initiating the space program, getting people to think outside of the limits to growth. Think about the future, think about the universe, and think about your relationship to that universe. That's the only way you can create a citizenry capable of having the moral fitness to survive and see through projects that are, long term. He was the treasurer of the Eugenics Society of Britain, which later became the Galton Institute, as was Churchill. They were both eugenicists. They were both Malthusians. They both believed in world government and depopulation. People like Maurice Strong, like Alexander King, Klaus Schwab, Kissinger, all of these creepy figures despise that characteristic because they're control freaks. Whenever we do that, we become very difficult to control. The things that they monopolize no longer have the value in controlling the system. So you break the rules of the game, and the great game must never have its rules broken. First rule of the great game, don't break the rules of the great game, or else assassinate the leader who tries. FDR became really the spearhead of the fight at a certain point after 41. And they couldn't control their Frankenstein monster. And that's why I say history is fluid. There's a fight. The oligarchy, yes, does have a lot of power. They have been at this for a long time, but people project, I think, too much power onto the oligarchy's controls. And they forget that, no, if they really had the control that they project, they would have already have gotten done what they want today to do many times over. The fact that they have been thwarted time and again is a testament to something within the human condition that allows us to overcome this evil. But we can't do it if we don't know this history.